And that's the memo. Now for the top story tonight, reaction. Joining us from Washington, Genevieve Wood from the Heritage Foundation, and from San Diego, Jason Rowe, former advisor to Mitt Romney. Mr. Rowe, surely Southern California has been greatly impacted by illegal immigration. What say you?
Well, yeah, it absolutely has. When I lived here in the 90s, it felt like we were being overrun by people here illegally. But one thing that we did along the San Diego border that we haven't done across the rest of the southern border is strengthen our immigration control at the border and across San Diego County all the way to Arizona.
Yeah, and you've done it by putting up a fence. You put up a very big fence in the San Ysidro sector. That had stopped it cold. And then you've made it very, very difficult for illegal traffic to come across in that sector, so they've moved to other places. So that's one part of the solution. The big fence, a double wide, as Charles Krauthammer said. In Israel, they managed to do it, okay? And we can do it here. But the will to do it isn't there, Mr. Rowe. Why not?
Well, and I think you're right. I mean, I think you've got a combination between the Latino, Hispanic lobby and big business in terms of the workforce that we're importing here to do the jobs that a lot of Americans maybe don't want to do. And I will tell you, after 9/11, George W. Bush could have implemented the most draconian policies in terms of border protection in the history of the world, and instead he decided to lead with a guest worker program, and I think that undermined the Republican Party. I think it undermined the will to do anything serious about border control.
Interesting.
But there hasn't been the political will to do the things that we need to do to secure the border.
Now, Ms. Wood, you've been down at the border, all right? And you heard my memo. Am I making any errors there? Am I distorting the situation at all, in your opinion?
No, I mean, I was in McAllen, Texas. I was down there covering it for the Daily Signal. And what I saw, and the people I talked to, Bill, the Border Patrol agents, the Texas Department of Public Safety, they all said we've never been overrun like this. And they did point to examples that you just pointed in Southern California saying, look, they've moved here because we've made it hard for them to get into other areas. But look, the fact is, I think one of the reasons we have this political shenanigans that we do is that people are almost told that you're somehow anti-immigrant, that you're inhumane if you want to secure the border. And that's just not true. I mean, the American people, this country, has done more in terms of aid to all parts of the world than any other country on the face of the earth. And it's important for people to remember we let in over 1 million legal immigrants into this country every year. Can we reform the system and make it better? Absolutely. And we ought to focus on that. But as you rightly said, you got to get a control of your border before you can tackle that system.
But President Bush didn't want to do it. President Obama doesn't want to do it. President Clinton didn't do it. Bush the Elder didn't do it. Certainly Ronald Reagan didn't do it because Ronald Reagan gave everybody amnesty, and on and on and on. So why won't any of these men who we elect to protect us primarily do it?
Well, I think it's because it's hard work. As you just have pointed out, politically, it's a hard thing to do because every time somebody says, I want to stop illegal immigration, people start screaming at them and saying how they're unfair and
racist,
this is a country of immigrants,
anti-Hispanic, all of that.
That's right.
So they don't have the guts, is what you're saying, Ms. Wood. They don't have the guts to do it.
Many of them, that's exactly right.
All right, Mr. Rowe. Yeah, you're a Republican guy, and you know that the strain of the Republican Party wants to deport. This is the Laura Ingraham crew, okay? And I'm not saying that disparagingly to Ms. Ingraham or people who feel that way, and that's their honest opinion. They don't think that illegal people who break the civil law should be allowed to stay here and be rewarded, and there's certainly some validity to that. That's about, as we saw in the poll, 25%. And you got to put them all on the Republican side. There's no Democrats that feel that way. All right? So the Republican Party is going to have to deal with that split, is it not?
Well, yeah, I mean, I believe that it has been a problem for us, and we have alienated Hispanic voters nationally. I will say this, when it comes to adults, that's one thing, because adults are consciously making this decision. But what we're talking about today is about children. These children shouldn't become the political pawns in our failure to deal with our immigration problem and our border problems. And I don't subscribe to the view that we deport a bunch of children. I mean, an 8-year-old in Guatemala didn't wake up one day and say, I'm going to go to a
but if you if they don't have a valid reason for being here, that is, they're directly in harm's way. And most of them in the interviews the Border Patrol have done say they weren't. that they were put up here because their parents are poor and this is a better place. That I don't think we can assimilate all of them, because that sends a signal to everyone in the world: you get here, you stay here. Last word, Ms. Wood.
And I don't disagree with that, Bill. But sending them back is not the answer.
Well,
dealing
you
with
got one or two choices.
Is.
You let them stay, you send them back. Ms. Wood, last word.
Yeah, look, you get more of what you reward. And the fact is, everybody I talked to, the vast majority said they were coming here because they understood if they got in, they would be allowed to stay. And and we can reunite people. We can reunite with them with their families back in their home country. Many of them have parents living in the country, in the U.S., illegally. We can reunite them, but then we send them
Each case has to be
not
fairly,
allow everybody to stay.
Each case has to be fairly assessed. That's the
right.
kind of country we are. Ms. Wood, Mr. Rowe, thank you. Next on the